which Medi
could Very Very?
if Very Medi could Medi Medi?
I'm not 100% sure, but I know it's time for Medi time! Woo! Let's go! League of Legends, I'm Medic James Lane, joined by everyone's favourite Welshman. Oh, second favourite, because Sheffius is everyone's favourite. This is Andrew Media's day.
Kicked me out of front runner. Yeah, we're here for Rogue versus Misfits. Now, Rogue are in a tough spot. They're currently 0-9. Misfits currently on a 1-5 record over their last 6 games. So neither of these teams have really experienced much success over the last few weeks of the LEC. And when you kind of look at expectations for Rogue, they were relatively low coming into the season. Many people looked at the roster and didn't think that they would be a front runner. However, I think that many expected a little bit more, perhaps that they wouldn't just lose every single game. For Misfits, expectations were very high. Yeah. Depending on who you speak to, certain words may have been used to describe them. But right now they're sitting at a 4-5 record. Definitely not the same 9-0 that they were last split. And they've showcased a lot of struggles. Many criticize them that they've only really been able to play through their bot lane, but in recent, I mean, yesterday we saw their bot lane just get crushed in the 2 versus 2, so Misfits are going to look to bounce back, and Rogue, they're looking to just secure their first win on the board.
Only the second game for Rogue with these 2 new substitutions, of course, Vander and Finn coming into the squad for week 5. Yesterday, Vander had a pretty good performance on the Braum. Finn struggled a little bit in the top lane to really have an impact, missing quite a few flash E's on that Urgot. But we are into picks and bans. Silas, Cassiopeia removed by Misfits, and Draven and Thresh taken off by Rogue.
So Lucian, Ezreal both still up and available. No surprise that we see the Draven ban. He's just become a more common ban recently rather than directed towards Hans Summer. The Thresh ban is something that's been more prevalent as well. He's kind of risen to a high priority support champion on the most recent patch, considering that he can be played into pretty much anything on the current patch right now. So I like that ban coming out as well. What else could Rogue look for right now? Surprising Olaf ban here coming out from the Misfits. Perhaps they're thinking something along the lines of the Karthus ones.
Yeah, Karthus could work for Max, though. We've seen him play a couple of times. Hasn't won with it
yesterday,
yet. Yeah, he played. I don't really count it as a game when you play it against G2. Like, Jankos' Elise was too darn devastating. But there's the Jace, the S-tier top laner at the moment in most people's eyes. He'll get taken away by Rogue, and Misfits do have the first pick. Looking at things like the Braum as a possibility here, also that Lucian is still available.
Yeah, Lucian is a big pick. Urgot is up and available, and Rogue are basically saying, well, you know what, whatever you pick, we'll likely take the other. But you've got to remember that, especially Soaz, there are many answers to things like the Urgot. Kennen is one of them, Ryze is another. So Silas is a champion we've also seen sometimes being picked. Not too much success. But obviously won't be available as he is banned away this time round. Rogue going for a very meta draft with both the Urgot and the Braum, expecting Misfits to not first pick that Braum.
Yeah, the entirety of the draft so far has been pretty meta in terms of pick tier listing. And now we start to get into the meat and potatoes of things. Now we get into the juicy stuff, the stuff that has been seasoned with a little bit of Misfits spice, hopefully.
What are they looking at right now? They could go for an early support if they wanted to. Gorilla has been playing a lot of Alistar recently. Ooh, that's probably going to be a Shen support. Really strong at early levels. Does pretty well into the Braum as well. And it does have the ability to be flexed towards the top side of the map. I have seen a couple of Shens be picked into the Urgot, especially during the World Championship. So they do have that flexibility option. And if they wanted to, they could try and grab themselves their jungle right now. Sejuani is up and available.
Yep.
I'd be very surprised if they go for the Scion right now. All right, they're going to do it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I do really like the Shen support into Braum specifically because you can stop his concussive blows from landing with the Spirit's Refuge. So I think that can be very powerful, but we'll have to keep our eyes down towards that bottom lane as the picks develop through pick and ban.
I really don't like Caitlyn Braum. I really don't think the synergy is there.
Yeah.
I much prefer this matchup. Yep, I think this is better. I think the Ezreal has a lot of survivability against the Lucian, and you're likely going to have to be playing defensively in this 2v2 matchup anyway. But to just very quickly go back to this Misfits draft, something I've been thinking a lot about is what is it that goes so wrong for Misfits? And outside of sure, sometimes they have struggles in the early laning phase. That's not really where their problem lies. The real problems lie when they actually get to these team fight stages and they need someone to pull the trigger. They need someone to actually start the fights for them. And one of the things I thought about was maybe if they put Soaz on just more engaged champions. He's a player that historically has always known when and been capable of starting fights and creating plays. And I think that by having him on a Scion, pairing it up with a Shen as well, means that Misfits actually actually have a very solid and reliable engage tool,
Oh,
meaning they don't have to rely on Maxlaw to do it. And when they have relied on him, I think that's where they've often faltered, especially in their game versus Splice. So perhaps it's not the strongest right now. Sion, with his nerfs, definitely struggles a lot more against the Urgot. Perhaps overall, it will help with some of the issues that Misfits have been dealing with.
So if that's what you're trying to do as Misfits, if you're saying we need a strong team fight initiator, we need a little bit of follow-up for it, how do you actually look for the rest of this draft? What are you looking for out of your mid laner and your jungler to round out this cohesive team comp?
Well, I would look at something more utility-focused for Febiven, something perhaps like an Orianna. Could be very solid, but you will have to be careful about blind picking Orianna. Syndra is another potential one. She's obviously very high in damage, but I would expect Maxlaw to be the secondary carry, something that he showcased a lot last year, and a position that he's often very comfortable on as well. You look at things like Lee Sin is currently up and available, fairly solid blind pick. Xin Zhao's kind of fallen off in terms of priority recently, but Nocturne is another big carry that not only synergizes very well with the Shen, but can also follow up on a lot of the engage tools that Sion can provide as well. So that's kind of where my head is at, but maybe they can also just trust in Febiven to be that extra bit of a carry, and then they'll just put Maxlaw on. Maybe they'll have 3 carries. I don't know. It's not rare for
have as many carries as you want. It doesn't always work out, but we'll see how Misfits go through the rest of the draft phase. That's the Corki pick for Senkux in the mid lane.
Ezreal, double Trinity Force power spike, one of the most commonly said caster phrases, but all round very solid comp.
We do say it time and time again.
Yes, that we do.
We saw Senkux on the Corki yesterday, went 1-1-0 on it. He played a relatively good game into Abidage's Rise, but Rogue weren't really able to translate that Trinity Force power into anything in the other lanes. And now with the Rise lock-in, Misfits, you know, it's a bit of utility for Febiven in the mid lane. That you've got the Rune Prism, but not to the same degree.
Well. He's very solid in, like, he offers teamfight value, but sometimes it's difficult for him to get through that tanky front line. He does pretty well on the side lane. I think Corki can match him because he's likely going to be running the teleport as well. But I think they're just kind of 2 champions that will match each other. They'll scale relatively evenly. Arguably, Corki has better scaling because, you know, he builds crit. However, so far, like, I quite like what Misfits has gone for. Very early game focus. They have a strong bot side of the map. They have the engage up towards the top side. Maxlaw is on early game jungler. And then for Rogue, they've gone much more towards the scaling aspect. Ezreal and Court. Ooh, okay. Well,
okay.
They've blown
Misfits have won the early game and Rogue are like, nah! Pantheon!
Pantheon. Wow! Alright, we need our stats team to get on. When was the last time we saw...
Vedius.
When was the last time we saw Pantheon in pro play, even?
I'm on it. You keep talking. I've got this one.
So, we'll talk a lot more when we actually get into game, but Pantheon, very early game focused. Lethality, he's really fast, he has a lot of mobility, and he's basically all about just trying to gank a lot, and try and snowball lanes. I don't think these are the best lanes to try and snowball, but you know what? Kick is saying, I'm going to look to kill stuff.
So I have quickly Googled, and this is not from the stats team, this is purely from my own research. Dardoch in Rift Rivals 2018 played it for Echo Fox versus G2 Esports. And
I remember that game. I remember that game.
Yeah, they lost.
Is that it?
Yeah, because G2 played Funnel Kai'Sa.
Yeah, he got a lot of early kills with that. Anyway, let's bring our attention back to that. Stats will hopefully be able to help us out a little bit more. And the last time we saw a Pantheon in pro play, can guarantee you it's been a while. But a Pantheon, this is going to be crazy. Exciting game. Rogue currently sitting at 0-9. They want to find themselves a win, and they're going to try and do it with the kick is special. You know, he brought out the Twisted Fate. He's brought out the Jungle Gnar. This man has had all kinds of crazy picks over the years, and now he's adding another one to his repertoire.
Even yesterday, he was playing the Jungle Poppy. He was one of the first guys to pick that here in EU. I remember talking to Yamato Cannon about it backstage. He trolled me a little bit, Yamato, in that interview. He said, oh, it was an accidental pick. It had been planned all along.
I remember.
It had been planned all along. But let's get on to the Summoner's Rift. It's Rogue up against Misfits. It's the start of the second half of the season for both these teams, and both coming off what would be a disappointing first 9 games, I think we can agree.
I mean, yeah, I think that's a fair statement to make. As we mentioned, Misfits currently sitting on a 1-5 record over the last 6 games. And Rogue yet to even find themselves a win. But I quite like Rogue's... I mean, I liked that comp until the Pantheon. Everything about it was actually very solid. I think it's got good scaling. You can play both team fight and you can play 1-3-1. You have solid laners. Like, the only struggling lane you're going to have is in the bot side, but you have push up top. Mid is very even. And I'm like, okay, this actually looks very good. And then they round things out with the Pantheon, who, like, he falls off late game because he has this problem where you can build him tanky, but then he doesn't do anything. He's just a tank that has one stun. So you kind of have to build him full damage, but then he's like really squishy, so he dives into the enemy team. And like you look at where else is the Pantheon is your engage. So he ults in, and then he either kills everyone or he doesn't.
You gotta go hard or go home, Betty.
I'll be honest, I'm not confident, but you know what? Pro players have proved me wrong before.
Yes.
So we've got to be optimistic. We'll see what Kikis can do with it. He is running the Baker skin.
Yeah, it's the only skin you can really run on Pantheon. Dragon Slayer is pretty good as well.
Actually, it's really cool. I like the Dragon Slayer.
But he's got some butter on the end of that knife, and he's looking to put some of the Misfits players to the sword as well. Let's have a quick talk about Misfits composition. We said they have a little bit of engage in terms of Sion running in. You've got the Shen follow-up there as well. But in terms of like laning phase, past possible team fights, what are they looking to do?
Well, I think Misfits should try to play around bot side of the map. They could try and make some plays mid, but I think when you have Shen Lucian, bot lane is the easiest one to play around. Soaz will be absolutely fine in the 1v1 top. He's just there to be an engage. And I think, again, Misfits, they don't need to force anything early on. It's just when the mid game comes round, once both Lucian and Ryze have got their second item, they should really look to try and force something then and there. But they do have the ability to play the early game just because they do have this Lee Sin in a lot of lanes with setup as well.
And we talked about how Sion, took a few nerfs recently, really struggles into the Urgot matchup because the Urgot hasn't actually received any changes on 9.3.
But also, I think Sion received some damage nerfs as well, which means it's way harder for him to clear the entire wave now. So if you fully channel a Q, before you could just kill the caster minions, but now that's not quite the case, which means that with less wave clear, it's even harder against an Urgot who's not only ranged, but has pretty solid push as well. So that's kind of why the matchup got harder, but clearly pro players saying, you know what? He is still one of the best tanks in the game. The fact that he passively just gets HP from things dying, that's pretty cool. And he has a pretty solid engage with his ultimate, so that'll be good. Anyway, where's Kikis going to go? I want to know what he's ganking early, if anything.
So Maxwell was spotted out on a ward as he came towards these Razor Beaks. They'll know he was on that side of the jungle. He's got a ward in towards the Razors of Rogue, so Kikis is now going to walk across that. And it makes it very hard for Pantheon to gank when he's on vision, because you don't have a huge amount of gap closers apart from your W, and it's pretty short range.
The Flash W is like uncounterable though. Yeah. It's the classic solo Q special. I used to play a lot of Pantheon back in the day. He used to be one of my favorite solo Q junglers, and he's really, really, really strong at like a level 11. And once you have like your first, so you used to build, was it called the Brutalizer?
Yes, it was Brutalizer,
yeah. So you used to go Brutalizer first, which was 1337 gold. And then once you got that item and you're like level 11, and then you upgraded to Yomu's Ghostblade, you did so much damage. So much damage. And then after that, you just slowly taper off. But at that point, you're like the strongest champion in the game. And the really cool thing about him, for those that may not have seen much Pantheon, is when you get low HP, past a certain threshold, his Q is guaranteed to crit, which means that you have a lot of execution damage, and it's really, really strong.
That's when the enemy is low HP.
Enemy, yeah. Sorry, yeah, my mistake.
I believe it's below 40% it will crit, so Pantheon can do a lot of work. You do usually have to see him getting a few ganks off even before he hits that level 6 mark, but in professional play, I have to admit, I haven't seen a huge amount of Pantheon. And we'll have to see if he waits to level 6 or if he looks to try and catch out Max Thor, who is coming in for a little bit of an invade here.
There is a Pantheon behind him.
That's a flash. Kick is there. Max Thor. Here's the Q. Forbidden jumps in as well. Kick is with the follow-up. Max Thor locked down underneath the tower. One more flash isn't enough. Takes the tower shot. Now Kick is on the chase. Doesn't have the flash. Does have the chilling smite. There's the slow. No way away from Max Thor from the Heartseeker strike. A final spear in the back will get the first kill.
And Kikis' arrival just in the nick of time keeps Senkux alive. The clutch stun comes out. Max Thor can't secure that last hit, which means that Rogue walk away with first blood. Great stuff from this Rogue team.
Yeah, great stuff all around. That's exactly what you needed if you are a Rogue. If you are on the side of Rogue, Kicker's getting a counter gank out. I think you could argue Maxwell was perhaps a little bit too aggressive going for the tower.
Well, you could see the play, but they just weren't expecting Kikis to just be walking down mid lane. You can see where they did have vision on your minimap. There was one ward on the Raptors, there's one ward to the entrance to the Wolves, there was another ward that was on Gromp as well. So I feel like Misfits had pretty solid information Oh, my mistake. No, they didn't. So he was just trying to make this dive happen. He saw kick his way too late. They thought they could burst him as well. Remember that Maxwell is running Electrocute, but I actually don't think he got that final hit off, which means that the Electrocute never procced, which meant that Kikis really, really clutch stun there, just in the nick of time.
Just in case anyone was wondering, the last time a Pantheon won in one of the top 5 divisions, that's LCS, LCK, LMS, LPL, or in the LEC, was 2017 summer. Looper played it in the LCS, and we do count that as a win, a top-tier competition.
Yes,
played it for Echo Fox. Yeah. So it's been 2 years or so since we've seen a Pantheon actually win.
Was it top lane or is it Looper?
I believe it was...
Looper is a top lane, wasn't
it? It might be top lane, actually. It might not be jungle Pantheon.
I feel like Looper was top lane.
It was top lane, yeah. It's been a while since we've seen a jungle Panth.
It's been a really long time. Anyway, so far he's sitting at 1-0-0. Perfect start for Pantheon.
It's so good! 100% kill participation!
You may see boots of mobility as well, just for the extra like zoomies, so you can set up those early kills.
Is that what you call them?
Yeah, zoomies.
The extra zoomies.
Yeah, so when Pantheon is running at you, it's like when Jin procs his passive, he gets the zoomies, you know? He's like, nyom! You gotta add the racing stripes as well, because he's flying.
Oh, that reminded me of... Did you ever hear of Crazy Frog, Vedius?
Crazy Frog,
yeah. Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, it was a craze in the UK for a period of time, and everyone either loved or hated that song.
Hated it, no.
But it was also during the period of time where everyone was like, you know what, mobiles were developing, and everyone was trying to get all these new ringtones and stuff, and a lot of people would have that as their ringtone for their new flip phone that they recently acquired.
Right. Yeah, not a craze I want to remember too fondly, but let's have a look at exactly how Misfits are going to navigate the next little portion of this game. Because we talked about how, you know, they usually like to play through bot lane. They have this winning bot lane, or a powerful bot lane in the form of the Shen Lucian. Haven't been able to get a lead yet. Hiku's actually back, got a Sheen, has had to teleport back to the lane, but now leaves once again. So, although Misfits seem to have an advantage on the bottom side of the map, they're not actually translating it into any gold lead or a CS lead either.
Well, I think the thing about the Lucian-Ezreal matchup is Ezreal typically does fine into Lucian because he can just play safe and farm from a distance. The difference, though, is it should be harder for Ezreal to proc his Kleptomancy stacks onto a Lucian.
That makes sense.
Because obviously he's constantly forced underneath his tower. But what you'll actually see here, we may get a good example of it, is when Hansam is trying to go for the tower, that's when Hiku's actually getting those Klepto stacks and just kind of slowly pushing him away. But it just gives props really to Hiku, saying the fact that he's been playing the lane pretty well. I don't think Hansama and Gorilla haven't been playing to trade and to play aggressively, but they recognize, you know what, their jungler isn't offering a huge amount at this point in time.
Yeah.
And they don't need to. They can just play safe, they can play defensively. Stacking up those tiers is way more important for the Ezreal. And for Misfits again, though, I think that mid game is really solid.
Oh, Finn going for the kill here. Has the Fibby on deck, just needs to connect. Stand United comes out alongside the Unstoppable Onslaught, so Zoas will run away, but Finn, after a disappointing performance yesterday, is looking a lot stronger today.
It's the power of Urgot, my friend.
He played Urgot yesterday as well, though.
The power of Urgot.
Okay. This is the second helping of Urgot in your Chefiest brew.
Well, you've got to
really
remember
accelerates the flavors.
That yesterday was Finn's first day on the LEC stage, so I would imagine that he was a little bit nervous. Didn't play as confidently as he would have before. Now, not only does he have a Pantheon jungle, which is very strong in terms of being able to counter game. However, but I just think that he's in a winning matchup, and maybe he just has a little bit more confidence. But he's definitely playing the lane better. He's forced Sora's back. He will also get the Shen ultimate out, which is great in terms of the early game playmaking potential. But now I want to see these Pantheon ganks, because as we said, towards the later stages of the game, Pantheon will definitely fall off. His value is much harder to be implemented in these fights. And again, I think I'm not surprised that we're seeing a super slow early game from the side of Misfits. I think that it's not the worst thing in the world. I don't think they need to snowball. I think that we just need to see, once they've completed like item number 1, maybe item number 2, they need to be actually forcing some plays.
Yeah, it feels like they do have to take the initiative at some point. Because I look at both compositions and scaling-wise, Mimim is going to flash away from Kickers there with the Grand Skyfall, but scaling-wise, you know, you've got double AD carry on the side of Rogue. You've got an Urgot frontline as well. That seems pretty strong.
It is. It's super strong. Again, Rogue's biggest issue is their lack of engage outside of the Pantheon ultimate, but we go... I thought Gorilla might go for a dive there, decided not to. And even though Hansama and Gorilla haven't built up a huge CS advantage. They have secured 2 plates, which is definitely a big gold income towards that side of the map.
Oh, it's 320 gold, isn't it?
They may even look to trade towards top side of the map as well as Maxwell looks to secure this Rift Herald. So I think both teams are like okay with how the game is playing out right now. As you said, Rogue have really good scaling, and Misfits have a really strong mid game. So like, because neither of them rely on snowballing the early game, it's not the end of the world. And again, when you kind of look at a Pantheon comp, what you'd kind of think is, oh, Pantheon LeBlanc, and then Pantheon, like, Jace isn't the best example, but think of some top laner that's only really good in the early game. Like, those are the kind of conversations where Pantheon needs to gank. Riven could be one example, yeah.
You're looking at kill lanes.
Yes, but Rogue haven't drafted for that, so Kix is like, meh. Guess I'll just farm.
It's that solo queue teammate who's just like, well, I'm playing Pantheon no matter what, okay? Well, you can play scaling, I want to play Pantheon.
Yeah. And I mean, to be fair, he used the ulti mid with a good roam from Vanda, and they get the flash out from Featherton. So now he has to play defensively, because if Kikis ever comes mid lane, it's really easy for him to set up a gank, and Kikis' ulti is about to be available once again. So yeah, Rogue looking pretty good. Right now, the main reason that the goal gap is closing is because Misfits have been securing a lot of tower plates, and there's a bit of a CS advantage for Misfits in the top side of the map as well.
Back here, some ardent shouting on the screen. Maxwell goes in for the flash jump. Kick is fighting onto it though. There's the Stan United trying to get Maxwell down before Gorilla can join. They take him out. And Misfits took the initiative, but Rogue take the kill. Here's the unstoppable onslaught. Soaz joining the fight. Senko still has the flash. Soaz now forced back underneath his tower. Misfits very much on the back foot as Rogue react to their plays.
So that was an awful kick from Maxlaw. Not entirely sure what he intended to do there, because he not only burnt his flash, but he actually kicked the target out of Featherton's Q, so he lost a lot of his damage as well. And the Shen ultimate didn't come onto him beforehand, it kind of came on reactively. And we'll just have a look here. So the goal here is to punish Kikis as he's trying to clear out a wall. And I think what Maxwell wanted to do is kick him over the wall so that he's right next to Featherton. But what he actually does is just kick him closer to Vanda. The Shen ultimate come out too late, and then Kikis can just jump on top of him and stun him because he still has his flash available to him. So I think that was just a little too aggressive from the side of Maxlaw, and once again, Kikis finds the punish.
Yeah. And I think we've seen that a few times from Misfits in the last couple of weeks, where they know what to do. Like, this is a team of very strong players, but the coordination and those small micro decisions aren't actually working out for them. In the first couple of weeks, they seem to just be steamrolling everyone, but since then, 1-5 in their last 6 games, struggling to really have the impact that this roster and this set of 5 players should.
So you can see that Rogue have an advantage in mid, they have an advantage in bot. Top lane is very even, which is fine for them. So this scaling composition looking pretty good. And when we think about Rogue, a lot of their games, assuming they can get past the late game, often end up at this point in the game where they have to rely on scaling more. Oh, wow, we have another gank at top lane.
The Baker's coming for a party in the top lane. Pull back with the disdain, so it's underneath the tower, but pulled in with the fear beyond death, and Rogue get another kill. It's Pantheon making waves on Summoner's Rift.
Yeah, great play there from Kikis. They do find another kill onto Soaz, but Misfits have the right set towards the bot side of the map. They have the Rift Herald. They'll likely be able to trade this for an objective, and I don't think Rogue will be able to get a tower. So the goal gap will close a little bit, but so far, Kikis making this Pantheon work. Now, Maxwell making a return to the mid lane.
Senkers has the package and the flats. Caught up in the Rune Prison. Maxwell goes in with the kick. Package comes away. Q does not connect, and Senkers will escape using just that single ability. Curious
as to whether or not Maxwell's Q is on cooldown before that. Yeah, it was. So he didn't actually have the Q available, which is why he didn't Q the moment he kicked. Yep. Otherwise, that would have been a kill. So can't blame Maxwell for that one, but I did like the kick that time. Fortunately for Senkix, he had the package, so he was able to get to safety.
So coming up to the 15-minute mark, about 1,000 gold lead for Rogue. We saw them yesterday have a pretty even early game as well, but let's have a look at where they are in terms of items. Senkix has that Trinity Force. We talked about that for the core key being a very powerful point. It's Iceborne Gauntlet first for Hiku, building up towards the Manamune next. Yeah, it's fine. It's not a Trinity Force. It's not tons of damage, but it's quite a lot of damage.
Yeah, it's still very good. It's part of the old blue build from Ezreal that has kind of just continued, offers a fair amount of utility as well. Blade of the Rune King as well, with the Phage coming out from the side of Hansama, so both him and Hiku at pretty even states in the game. Oh, but I would argue that the Lucian is just a bit stronger at this point in time. Now we see Hiku and Vander actually trying to get a 2v2 here, but Gorilla on the Shen, if he's able to land that taunt, that will be a lot of damage going on to them, so Hiku and Vander are forced to show that respect.
That's something we often talk about with Shen specifically, is how you want to have proactive Shen ultimates.
Ooh, this is dangerous.
And Maxwell jumps in. Senko's coming in from the side as well. Kikis actually has a lot of damage down onto Maxwell. You can see the Stand Unite comes in. Gorilla flashes over with the taunt. Didn't actually connect onto Kikis. Kikis running away, but the chase will come in and Forbidden secures the kill.
So, a couple flashes had to be used from both Gorilla and Featherman, but Misfits do finally find their first kill of the game. It will mean that Hansam is in a 1 versus 2, so Rogue's bot lane is going to continue to push up towards the top side, but Misfits doing what they can to trade objectives and will make their way towards the Mountain.
Yeah, Mountain Strike's so good for the team as well. You know, if you're looking for those objectives in the next 10, 15 minutes or so, it gives you so much of a bonus in terms of damage. And they will secure it. First dragon of the game for them. Go pretty much even between the two teams now as well.
So let's take a look here. This is just Kikis trying to clear the vision. He's like, I'm fine. I have a Corki in mid who has priority right now, and I have an Urgot who can make his way up. The one thing he didn't respect was the potential for a Shen. But Shen even misses the taunt. But then it looks like Kikis was almost expecting it, so he wanted to try and turn around. Maybe if I can jump onto Maxwell with my W, then I can just kill him, and then I can trade 1 for 1. But he ends up getting collapsed upon by Featherman because Senkus gets forced back, and he ends up losing his life. So a bit unfortunate there for Kikis. Doesn't have his flash, will be coming up relatively soon. And he may look for a mid gank, actually, because, you know, there is no flash on Featherman. The ultimate is up for Kikis, and he has a couple of options. He could go onto Soaz, he could go onto Featherman, and you want to try and punish those flashless targets when you're playing that champion.
Finn flashed away towards this bottom side. Max was still just getting the damage in. Forbidden's on his way as well. It looks like Rogue being caught out in the side lane once again. Finn trying to do what he can, but Forbidden gets the kill. Grand Skyfall comes in the top lane as Kikis is on the chase. Jumps forward, flash W. Hansama flashes away. Teleport comes in from Soaz just to join this fight. Force back Rogue. The Unbreakable used by Vander just to eat up that culling. And Rogue with 4 members strong could go for the tower here. Instead, they're just going to back off towards the river.
So Finn overextends in the bot side of the map. He didn't have a tower to play around, he didn't have vision at all in the river, which means that it was a very easy kill for Misfits to find. Then Rogue tried to make a cross-map play towards the top side of the map. You know, hey, if you're going to get a kill, then we're going to try and trade it for a tower. They almost ended up with a couple of kills going in their back pocket, but they couldn't quite convert it into anything thanks to a TP coming through from Soaz, which means that Misfits, they slowly gain a bit of control back on the map, but at the same time, they lost that top tier 1. So we can have a look back at how this one played out. You can see that Finn, he, I believe, yeah, he does have flash initially, but the moment he sees Maxwell, then it goes out, but he just realized, oh no, I just used all my engage tools, and as you can see on the minimap, Rise is already making his way down, he has no vision in the river, but at the same time, Senkix is making his way up. So they think, you know what, we're in a 4 versus 2 in this situation, maybe we can find some kills. The Pantheon ults in, he tries to go for the flash onto the duo, but all they end up getting is a couple of summoner spells out, and they can't convert it into anything outside of the tower.
And the thing for Finn is he's playing into a Righteous Glory Scion as well. So in a 1v1, yes, he should win that matchup anytime, but you're not getting away from him if you ever go for the engage, and there's someone else from the Misfit squad there to catch on. We said we wanted to see a little bit of initiative, a little bit of proactivity from the Misfits after they got this first completed item. I think we've seen that. You know, they picked up a couple of kills. They're being a little bit more proactive on the map. Vander jumps in the mid lane. Maxwell here with a flank, kicks him back. He goes straight into the team, flashes away, but can't get away from Forbidden, who has got all 3 kills for Misfits this game. Kikis jumps in, catches Gorilla. Finn with the fear beyond death will pull back to Shen, and it's a 1-for-1 trade in the mid lane. Really
Good kick from Maxwell to set up the initial play from Misfits, but Rogue with a stronger collapse allow them to get a 1-for-1 overall. No objectives are going to be traded for the time being, as Drake is still 2 minutes away, and Rogue, they don't have the wave to set up for a mid-tier 1, so ends up just being a couple kills going back and forth.
It feels like both teams are just trying to make small forays into the enemy's base, into the enemy's areas of vision, being like, oh, can we get a kill here? Can we do something here? Neither team really getting a huge amount out of it. Still only that 1,000 gold between the two of them, coming up to that 20-minute mark. And we almost got to, you know, 2 completed items on this Corki, 2 completed items already on the Ezreal as well. If you're a Rogue fan, this is a pretty good position.
Yeah, I mean, if Rogue look great right now in terms of how their comp plays out. Again, I'm still a little skeptical of this Pantheon
Scion
pick.
ultimate, yeah, I understand.
No, the Scion ultimate was fine. He's forcing Senkix back, so as showing why Scion is still a relevant tank and can just bully out a Corki. Once he gets that Infinity Edge and Rapid Fire, that won't be as comfortable for Soaz anymore, but he's still a way off that, so Soaz feeling more than confident. Do quite like these lane assignments as well. This is one of the great things about Corki. You can just send him off to a side lane because he gets to run the teleport, meaning that Hiku can just sit in mid, who also has the teleport. So should Finn or Senkux use theirs, Hiku can act as just a side lane farm catcher and still can join the fray should something occur on the map.
Yeah, so kind of that 1-3-1 that we alluded to earlier starting to be taken into effect by Rogue, but Misfits can continue to try and just gain vision control of this river with Dragon up in about 30 seconds. It's only a cloud, but it's still something to put in your back pocket. There's a Baron up towards the top side as well, but they haven't really cleared out any vision in that river. So we'd like to see Misfits get a little bit more control just of their flanks, because otherwise they could quite easily be caught out.
Rogue have really good vision set up around the bot side of the map right now. Misfits going to make a cross-map play towards the top.
Yeah, Valkyrie from Senkux, but immediately just locked up underneath the tower, giving across to Forbidden once again. All of his team's kills sitting on the Rise's shoulders. Forbidden having a very good game with that Morello Nomicon and Seraph's Embrace complete.
Also note that Maxwell's been involved in every single one of those kills, so while he has had a couple of misplays, while Rogue has been able to counter-gank some of the things he's been trying to do, he's still been very active in setting up his mid lane with all of these kills. So now Featherman's in a prime position to be one of the big carries. Going off into a side lane, given that he has 2 fully completed items, he should be able to bully around both Finn and Senkux at this point in time. So you'll notice how they'll just rely on Featherman and put a lot of their vision around Featherman to make sure that he's safe. And you can already see right now, Featherman pushing in top, all of the control wards are towards the top side of the map. And this will allow him to secure another tower. So Misfits like, okay, we know where our strong player is, let's make sure that he can just carry this game forward.
We wondered if they play through bot when we came in to pick some bans, but instead they're playing through their new mid laner. I say new, he's been playing for them for about 5 weeks or so, but still a new addition to the team for Misfits this split. Teleport used in the mid lane by Hans Summer. There's so many teleports in the game now, Vedius. I used to be able to just say, oh, who's got teleport on the team? It's definitely them using it, but there's so many of them.
Yeah,
so
really
unpredictable.
Annoying. I'm really happy that no one in solo queue does it, because, I mean, when I bully my opponent out of lane, I don't want them to TP back in.
Oh, sorry, yeah. So you were being serious.
Yeah, yeah, I was. You know, playing Nocturne into Corki mid, I bully them all the time. Early levels, they think they can trade against me, and then they realize I can't.
So here's the problem with that. I played Nocturne into Corki mid today. TP used by Finn, trying to catch out for Bivin. There's the blast gun as well, but he'll use it to get to safety. Vanderpont's the Fisher. Hiku jumps across the wall as well. Hans Summer comes in from the side with the Cunning, just trying to dissuade Rogue from going for the engage, but they get onto Gorilla. Dodges away. Shenton across the wall. Kick is looking for the chase. Pulled back all the way into the meat grinder as Finn gets the kill, and now the Baron on the cards for Rogue if they want it. Instead, looks like they're going to try and get mid priority.
Now Rogue were aiming to kill Feather, then get that shut down, put Rise behind. Now they're looking for another fight in mid.
Or out Soaz, who's forced to flash away. Lots of damage going on to Kikis as well, but Hiku doing a lot of work on this Ezreal. Can never discount the amount of damage an Ezreal can put out at this portion of the game.
You can see how strong this 5v5 is from Rogue. They have so much poke available to them. They have a lot available in terms of the actual setup. And then they just keep harassing every time Misfits try to run away. And then out of nowhere, Kikis, he just dives on top of you. He'll land that stun, and he'll find that opportunity to secure that kill. So here we can see Featherman just pushing in the side lane. The problem for him right now is that there's no pressure anywhere else on the map for Misfits, so they can't potentially trade his life for an objective, which means that they go for the collapse instead. And things look pretty promising. Sion isn't there and doesn't have teleport available, but then here comes the flash stun in from Kikis, and the CC is long enough to help damage Gorilla to help secure the final kill. So it ends up being 1 kill, but what did they have to invest for that? It cost them a teleport from their top laner, it cost them a flash from Kikis, and outside of that, it wasn't actually too much. They just couldn't turn it into any other objective.
I actually think Kikis' smite, because he's got the chilling smite, was the damage that allowed the Fear Beyond Death to go off. That's pretty heads-up play from Kikis, just to make sure that they could pull Gorilla back. Here's the ultimate coming up behind the tower, forcing away Hans Summer. Finn on the chase there. The Valkyrie comes out as well. The package locks up Hans Summer, and Rogue dive between the towers to get the kill.
That's one thing we haven't talked about, but has to be respected with Pantheon. When you're setting up around a tower, you just ulti behind it, and it immediately forces the opposition to back, because they don't want to take that damage. It scales really well with AD, and then the follow-up from both the Urgot and the Braum is really solid, and now they have their eyes set on Maxwell. The Baron is alive, and he's not going to get away.
Yeah, Maxwell has to try and dodge away from Vander, but Vander gets the final punch into Maxwell's back. And now Baron started by Rogue. Gorilla there to try and answer for Bivin as well. He's very big. If he can get into this fight, he can do a lot of work. Soaz on the front line for Bivin, standing on a wall. Baron down to 8,000 HP. Rogue so close, you feel, to a victory in this game. If they can take down this Baron, they're going to get it. Misfits give it up. Rogue still have quite a way to go, but they are looking very, very strong here against Misfits.
It's difficult to criticize Rogue for this game. They've made a lot of really good plays. While Kikis hasn't been like ganking left, right, and center, he's been counter-ganking. Once he hit that level 11 mark, we talked about how you're really strong at that point in the game. Once you've completed your first item, we saw a bunch of ultimates, and I feel like every time it's off cooldown, he's looking for a play. He's now level 13 on the Pantheon. He is at pretty much his, well, once he completes this next lethality item, you would imagine that it's going to be the Ghost Blade for the extra bit of mobility. I would argue he's kind of at his strongest point, and they're leveraging that power spike. Rogue are forcing, and now they've just secured a Baron.
You can see how hard it is to get away from Finn here as he just runs in with the Righteous Glory Ghost.
I mean, the chase down power from Rogue is really, really strong, like the Righteous Glory. You talked about it as well. The Panther ultimate, here it is again.
Gets in behind the tower, and once again, it's Hans Summer who's isolated. Rogue pushing in with the Baron buff, already a 2,000 gold advantage taken off it, and Misfits have to find a way to react. They have to stop Rogue, because otherwise their inhibitor is just going to fall.
I think it's just going to fall, Medic. They tried to split push with Feathervin, but right now Rogue is too strong. The Misfits can't split up the map. They have to group, and Rogue want that position. Senkuk's level 16, they found another pick.
Soaz caught out, locked up with the concussive blows, he's dead! And now it's a 5v3! Rogue looking for the win. It will be their first win of the LEC, and what a team to take it against as well. They're onto the Nexus towers.
This is huge for Rogue. They're onto it, Medic. This could be it.
First Nexus tower down, Maxwell backups trying to defend. And Summer up in 3 seconds as well, but already Rogue have locked out Gorilla. Bivin just can't do anything, and Rogue come a knocking with the Pantheon pick! Rogue take their first win of the LEC!
Joy on the faces of this Rogue squad. Relief on the face of Senkuk's as they beat Misfits in 27 minutes.
What a performance! And you have to look at some of the substitutions as well, the new additions to the team. Banda had a great game. Finn on the Urgot in the top lane really kept Soaz pinned back on that side.
But I think what was so great about this comp from Rogue is that they didn't need to force any plays. They could just sit there, they could farm, they could be patient, they could take their time. And like, you were just keeping your eyes on Kikis to be the playmaker, the proactive guy, which is what he has been over the last few weeks, especially when you look at yesterday. And then today, he comes in on the Pantheon. He's involved in the vast majority of the kills. 2-1 and 6 was his scoreline. They found 9 kills overall. This guy was very active. Sure, he didn't snowball the early game in their favor, but that didn't matter. The moment he had his ultimate up, he was looking for plays. He got a lot of the early towers for the team. And overall, Rogue had a very solid game.
Incredibly good game from Rogue, and it does actually push Misfits out of the playoff berth as well. They are now sitting in 7th place in the league after such a flying start behind SK, behind Origin, behind Splice. And with people like Fnatic, who are now 3 and 7, nipping on their heels, you know? Misfits, something needs to change for them, or they need to go back to their winning ways.
And it's difficult to assess where things just kind of fell apart, because there was a point in the game where Misfits and Rogue were 4 and 4, right?
Yep.
And Misfits wanted to set up this 1-3-1 style of play, but Rogue just kept finding these picks. They kept catching members out of position, and one kill turned into another kill, and eventually it turned into a Baron, which just ultimately led to the end of the game. So Rogue, they just very small punishes, small mistakes again from these individuals from Misfits, just getting capitalized upon that. And this is like a clear example, right, of where Rogue just found those opportunities. They're able to get those very quick punishes, and they converted into one kill after the next. So Rogue doing a fantastic job finding their first kill. And again, like, you know, we talk about misplays from the side of Misfits. This is one of them from Max Lord. You can see what he tried to do, but unfortunately he couldn't quite pull it off. And then Rogue were very quick to find them an answer every time.
Yeah, and things like this is where Rogue really showed us how well this team composition could gel together. Because you had the follow-up attention from the package, you had the Grand Skyfall, and you had Flim just being like, I'm a crab, run away from me, I'm a crab.
And you can see how quickly they ended the game as well. Rogue held the gold lead for the vast majority of the game. You talked about a lot about it. During the laning phase, Hiku is doing very well. Even though a lot of ganks are being thrown mid, Senkuk's only died once that whole game. And overall, it just felt like they kept the game very steady, very even. They relied on the fact that they were stronger when they were in those 5v5 situations. And And yeah,
It was really good stuff.
I'm blown away. Great stuff.
Even though I'd still pick Vedius as my duo partner over any LEC pro out there, I think you have to. I was meant to say something.
You were meant to say something, and then they told you, don't say it, whatever it is.
I lost where I was going to go. So in a second, you'll hear me say exactly that sentence again, and it will lead into something. But they don't want me to say that yet. So for now, I think what we'll talk about is the fact that Kikis was really one of the linchpins for this competition.
Yeah, he picked Pantheon, and he won. That's great. I was really surprised by the fact that they were able to pull that one off. I was skeptical of the pick. They had really strong scaling. I thought they needed more utility, but apparently a point-and-click stun is all the utility you need.
And the stats team actually did some more Google for me. The last time Pantheon won in the jungle, 2015 LPL. It was played by Clearlove. So
you're getting the note now. They're subtly telling you to do what you just said.
So, even though I'd still pick Vedius as my duo partner over any LEC player, we did see some great performances from Finn, Senkux, and Vander this game.
What?
Okay, it's okay. If you thought one of them stood out, vote for them in your Kia player of the game at LOL Esports on Twitter.
I kind of wish Kikis was in there.
Do you?
A little.
Yeah, I think I can agree with you.
I feel like he had a great game.
Yeah, but I think, I especially think Finn had a really good game. Considering how, in terms of contrast from yesterday to today.
It's definitely a big improvement, and I'm glad that he had a solid performance in the LEC, especially against a veteran like Soaz. But I can't, Pantheon Jungle, man.
Pantheon Jungle did come out. We're going to learn more about that because Law is standing by with Rogue's Jungler.
Thank you very much, Medic. Schalke had the memes yesterday, but in the end, Rogue won. Thank you for joining me, Kikis. It's been a while.
Hello.
How is it special for you to win against Misfits today?
I mean, it's really uncomfortable level of happiness of being 1-9.
Yeah.
But it feels good to finally win a game.
Yeah, I mean, you had a hard time. Nothing is impossible, but it's going to be hard for you guys to reach playoffs. Now, what are your expectations towards the end of the splits?
I think this week we, both in practice and on stage, we showed a lot more improvements over this week than all the other weeks together. So I think there's still a lot of hope for us.
Okay.
Because I do feel like we know how to play the game right now, and we're not just gonna get rolled over or we are really lost in the games. But yeah, it's really hard when you're 1-9 and there's only 8 games left to still go for playoffs, because we need to win probably 90% of the games. So we will keep trying until the very end. But yeah, it's going to be a tough one to try to get to playoffs.
I trust you to do so. You were saying that the trainings were going better now. Is it because you have new teammates, maybe? New team dynamic in the team?
That is part of the reason, yes. Of course, week to week you are learning much more about your approach, and if you're losing everything, then you see way more problems than if you are winning everything. I just feel like this mix of players is a bit better for us in terms of how we actually mesh with each other, because it's really not a skill or individual problem, but sometimes you can have 5 best players in the world and they might not work together, like all the super teams from the past. And I mean, we don't really have the best players in the world, but still it's kind of the same concept.
I agree, and I mean, I'm glad to know that the team is working this way. One last question for you. Can you talk me through the flex pick Pantheon? I never saw this one before.
I just felt like it's a good fit in this draft. Of course, that's why I picked it. I think my Poppy pick yesterday wasn't picked in a correct draft. But I still have some cards up my sleeve, and I still want to make enemy teams be yeah, you cannot really predict what this guy gonna do. So the drafts are getting much harder for enemies, I would say.
And I'll be waiting to see more from you guys. Thank you for joining me, Kikis.
Thank you very much.
We're gonna take a short break, and when we come back, it's gonna be the last game of the week. Stay tuned.